Hey everyone, welcome back to Cruise Info HQ. My fiance Em and I recently went on a 12-day Panama Canal cruise on board the Emerald Princess. While there were some things about this older ship we absolutely loved, there were some other things that definitely needed an upgrade. I'll take you through some of our thoughts on the cabin we chose, the amenities available on board, the entertainment and nightlife, and of course, the food. Let's dive on in. First, let's talk a little bit about the ship itself. The Emerald Princess first debuted back in April of 2007 and was the second last Grand Class ship from Princess before moving on to the Royal Class. At 140,000 gross tonnage and 3,500 passengers, this ship would have been considered massive back in its day, the early 2010s, but compared to the giants like Icon of the Seas or Sun Princess, it's pretty small, or I don't want to say small, but pretty average to maybe even below average nowadays. Overall, it never felt like the ship was too crowded though. There was plenty of space on board for everybody. Aside for the occasional game show or larger production show in the theater, those are the only times you ever kind of notice some big crowds building up in certain areas. One of the things we loved about Emerald Princess and the Grand Class ships in general was the promenade deck on deck 7. It wraps around the entire ship, so you're just able to walk around the whole ship and get tons of different viewpoints of the ocean or whatever wherever you are at port. She was, however, showing her age in quite a few places. I mean, this is an 18-year-old ship. There were a lot of tiles missing along the pool deck, either in the pool or on the pool deck itself. There was a lot of scuff marks and just light damage on a lot of the walls in the hallways and in your cabin. And just a lot of the bathrooms were out of order. It seemed like every other bathroom was out of order every other day, basically. Luckily, this ship's going into dry dock some point in April 2025, so all of these things should be fixed after that. Next, let's move on to the cabin. Although this was a more scenic cruise and we thought about booking a balcony room, we ended up deciding to go with an inside cabin because we knew there were several really good viewpoints all over this ship, and we didn't think we'd miss out on too much by not having that balcony. The room itself was a little bit dated. I personally thought it looked a little bit like a Holiday Inn. M, on the other hand, kind of thought it was more of like a classic cruising room. I'll put some pictures on the screen and you guys can kind of judge for yourself. The inside cabins were definitely small. There wasn't a ton of room around the bed, but there was plenty of storage options still. And the beds were high enough that luggage was easily able to be tucked beneath and hidden away. So once we got everything organized, we were pretty good for 12 days. And we had a decent amount of luggage, of course, for a week and a half, and we had no problems finding spaces to fit everything. It would have been nice to have some more drawer space instead of so many shelves. I just always find it's easier to find what you're looking for in a drawer rather than a shelf, but we were still able to make it work. Now, this was our first time staying in an inside cabin, and we were a little bit unsure of what to expect. Thought we might be missing out on not having our morning coffees on the balcony, but honestly, we absolutely loved it. And I can only kind of see us cruising inside balconies for the foreseeable future. It was just great. And the amount that we saved, we were able to spend on a few different pluses for us, also to say. So it's great. We were a big fan of the inside cabin. The peace and quiet and complete absolute darkness this room provided was absolutely amazing to sleep in. We usually like a really dark room at home when we're sleeping, and this inside cabin, I'm talking, it was pitch black, complete darkness. So it was great for us. And we didn't really have to miss out on our morning coffees on a balcony really too much after all anyways, because the cabin we chose was right at the very back of the ship. We were in R740 on deck 14. So we were literally about 10 or 15 steps out to the back terrace pool area. And we were able to enjoy our coffees just looking out the aft of the ship and watching our wake go by or checking out whatever new port we just arrived at in the morning. So we really didn't miss out on too much. Now, for the amenities, Em and I were both really impressed with everything the ship had to offer, especially for it being nearly 20 years old at this point. There were 4 different pool decks spread all across the ship, so you're pretty much always guaranteed to find either a really sunny lounger with some music playing or a nice, quiet, relaxing spot somewhere in the shade. There was a lot of different options for everybody. The terrace pool at the aft of the ship overlooking the wake, or the Lotus Spa pool just underneath the sanctuary, were always pretty quiet and relaxing. While the Calypso pool usually had some movies playing, and Neptune's pool was where you could find live music or pool games. Pretty sure there was also about 10 or 11 bars spread out across the ship, so finding a drink was never a problem, especially with the medallion service. You could just order a drink on the app, and they'd find you wherever you are on the ship just based on your medallion. Some of our favorites were probably the Crooner's Bar on deck 7. Had a nice view of the piazza, and there was always some really nice live music playing either in the piazza or a pianist in the Crooner's Bar, and the bartenders there were hilarious. And the Tradewinds Bar on deck 17, just above Neptune Pool, had a great view of the pool deck and some stunning views of the landscape and the water when you were cruising at sea. The only real downside of the amenities was there was only 2 of the smaller kind of lounge, game show, trivia, comedy lounge style theaters. The Fusion Bar, Club Fusion, and the Explorers Lounge. And they're both right beside each other, so oftentimes if they had a few events lined right after the other, like trivias or game shows, if you weren't there for the first event to snag an early spot, you weren't getting a spot for the second event or the third event. It was just packed the whole night. The theater, on the other hand, was a really good size, had plenty of spots. We never really had too much of a problem finding a seat for any of the shows, and there were a lot of different viewpoints. I think it spans 3 different decks, so it's not like you had too many heads in front of you at any of the different seats. Probably our favorite thing just about the ship in general was just how open everything always felt. If you were on any of the pool decks outside or even inside, especially at the terrace pool with all the different levels they had, it was always easy to find a nice sunny spot to sit down and relax. Now, onto the entertainment. To be honest, it was a little bit of a mixed bag. There was a ton of variety and a lot of different shows, and the shows and game shows that they had going on, they were fantastic shows. We loved all of them, but for a 12-day cruise, it just didn't feel like there was enough going on at a lot of points during the cruise. So starting with the theater shows, it definitely felt like there was a little bit more left to be desired with them for sure. Last year we were on the Sky Princess, and it just felt like the production level of a lot of the shows was a lot higher than on the Emerald Princess. A lot of the shows kind of felt more like a live concert with a lot of background dancers. Wasn't exactly like a storyline or kind of like a Broadway-esque show. They were more so kind of musical shows, which some people were big fans of on the ship, but for Em and myself, we weren't really too big of fans of it. Princess Cruises isn't really too known for their comedy. They don't really have a dedicated comedy lounge on board the Emerald Princess, but there were a few nights where they turned the Club Fusion, I believe it's called, into the Laugh Lounge, and they had 3 different comedians during our 12-day cruise. We managed to see all 3 of the comedians, even though it was tough to find a spot. Every show was just packed, like I was saying earlier. These lounges just weren't quite big enough to accommodate all these people. All 3 of the shows were fantastic. Our favorite was definitely, I believe it's Carlos Oscar. All of his jokes were just bang, 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 one after the other, and the whole crowd was just dying laughing. It was hilarious. By far the biggest area where the activities were lacking was in the pool games and just like the pool deck activities. I believe over the 12 days there was only about 3 pool games and 2 like pool deck parties, that being the sail away party and the 80s party that pretty much every Princess cruise does. So definitely a little bit disappointed with that. The sail away party was okay. I feel like Princess obviously isn't too well known for their parties, and especially on the first day, a lot of people aren't really too warmed up with each other to jump on the dance floor. But the 80s party, I believe it was on day 5 or day 6, that was a blast. People were loving that. There were people of all ages up on the dance floor having a great time. The activities team was getting involved, getting people up and jumping in the pool with everyone at the end. So it was a ton of fun. It's just one of those things where it's, again, kind of leaving you wanting a little bit more, especially on a week and a half cruise, 12 days. Only having 2 of those deck parties, I feel like there should have probably been 3 or 4 of them. Now for everyone's favorite part, the food. We really appreciate the level of service and attention to detail that Princess offers, as well as their amazing desserts. The dining on this cruise was no exception. I think over the entire 12-day journey, we maybe only had about one or two dishes that we didn't really like. On our last cruise with Princess, the dining was so slow. The main dining rooms took forever. I think we were usually about 2 hours to get in and out of our main dining room reservation. But on Emerald Princess, it was a complete 180. Every meal was maybe only about an hour, hour and 15 at most. And after our meals, the waiters went above and beyond, finding us different desserts that weren't exactly on the menu that we might want to try, like different little cookies and things to add with our coffee. The extra fare dining was a little hit or miss. Crown Grill was amazing. Crown Grill is probably one of the best steakhouses at sea. The unlimited sides are an amazing touch. We also got to try a more casual dining restaurant that's only on the Emerald Princess and Caribbean Princess. That's Steamer's Seafood. Steamer's was definitely one of the highlights of this trip for us. All the seafood options, the little boiled pot they give you was delicious. And the half crab and lobster add-on is a must-try. The second casual dining spot we tried was the Salty Dog Gastropub. And this one was a bit of a miss for us. We thought it was a little strange that not every main came with an appetizer. I ordered the burger and it came with fries like you'd expect, but Em ordered the short ribs and it was just a small little bowl of short ribs. There was no sides or potatoes or anything with it. It almost kind of more so looked like an appetizer. So that was a little strange. And while the burger was good, I don't think it was necessarily something worth the extra charge. I mean, they've got the Salty Dog Grill, and Salty Dog, they've got some amazing burgers already. So it's already kind of tough to beat what they offer for free on the ship anyways. Although we didn't eat in the buffet too often, they had tons of different options every night. And there's actually a different themed night every single night. So you had a little bit of variety every night you went to the buffet. For breakfast, you just had the usual same options like your cereals, yogurts, your sausage, bacon, eggs, your normal breakfast stuff. There wasn't too much variety there. We usually preferred getting our breakfast from the International Cafe. We loved the International Cafe. They got some really good specialty coffees there, amazing desserts, gelato, and it's open pretty much 24/7. Anytime you go down there, you can usually find like a little sandwich or a dessert or something to kind of nibble on. And on the pool deck, included in your cruise fare, you got the Salty Dog Grill, which offers hot dogs, burgers, tacos, Slice, which offers pizza, and then Coffee and Cones, which got specialty coffee and ice cream. The Salty Dog Grill gets extremely popular around lunchtime and after people have gotten back on board after excursions. So sometimes there were some pretty long lines, but if you're hanging around the pool deck, just kind of keep an eye on the line, and once you notice it get a little bit shorter, just jump up on there and usually grab a burger in about 5 minutes or so. Overall, we thoroughly enjoyed this older ship. There were for sure a few things that could have been better, but for the price we paid, they were very easy to overlook. The itinerary we chose was the Panama Canal partial transit. I'm a bit of a mechanic and engineering nerd, so getting to see the process of these giant locks up close was really cool. It wasn't just the canal that made us pick this cruise though, as all the other stops were in some amazing countries, like Bonaire, Curacao, the Cayman Islands, Costa Rica, and Colombia. The base fare for this cruise when we booked it was around $2,500 US for 2 people, including all the taxes and port fees. We chose to add on Princess Plus, which gave each of us 15 alcoholic drinks per day, unlimited soda, Wi-Fi for one device, and covered all of our crew gratuities. So at $65 per day for 2 people, that brought our total to around $4,000. Now this was a 12-day cruise, so it comes out to around $170 per person per night. We were both really happy with the overall value for the price, especially after adding on Princess Plus and not having to worry about gratuities or paying for drinks. Really made it feel like an all-inclusive vacation. But let's break it down into a score. We picked 5 categories and each gave them a score out of 10. So a perfect score would be 100 out of 100. First off, the food. Em scored it an 8.5, while I gave it an 8. for a combined score of 16.5 out of 20. Overall, the food was amazing, but there were a couple of dishes that didn't quite live up to expectations, namely the calamari. Every time we ordered it, it was very chewy. For entertainment, I scored it a 6, while M gave it a 7, for a combined score of 13 out of 20. The game shows and comedians were great, but only having 3 pool deck activities over 12 days was pretty lackluster. The cabin we were pretty split on. M scored it a 9, while I gave it only a 7, for a combined score of 16 out of 20. M's score was heavily skewed by Princess's beds and pillows, since she slept incredibly well the entire week and a half. For the amenities, we both agreed on a 7.5 for a combined score of 15 out of 20. The 4 separate pool decks were great. Even on a busy sea day, we didn't have a problem finding a lounger in a nice sunny spot. And value for money, I scored at a 9 and M gave it a 10 for a combined score of 19 out of 20. The staff on board Princess go above and beyond with their 5-star service, so it made looking past the light wear and tear a lot easier. And then everything Princess Plus includes just puts it way over the top. Well, we honestly have to do a separate video about Princess Plus sometime soon, because it's just a great value for the money. It includes so many amazing extras. So that makes the total score for the Emerald Princess a 79.5 out of 100. Which is pretty good, but it was certainly lacking in some areas, mostly entertainment. If you're going on a cruise expecting some really incredibly high value production shows or tons of action on the pool deck and big parties, then Emerald Princess probably isn't the cruise for you. For us though, we mostly just like to relax with some really good food, good drinks, and having lots of access for sea views, be able to see the ocean and the landscapes and hearing the waves crash by your boat while you're going through a busy sea day. So we really enjoyed our time on board. The wraparound promenade deck is also a really nice touch that a lot of the newer cruise ships just don't seem to have anymore for whatever reason. And we absolutely love that. We were out there pretty much every night. So there you have it. Those are our thoughts on the Emerald Princess. As I said earlier, it is going into a dry dock pretty soon, so pretty curious to see what improvements they make and hopefully able to sail this ship again and make a comparison. Thanks for watching and happy cruising.